She didn't hear the car door slam behind her, or the laughter that followed. Snow was falling in heavy silence, each flake landing like a whisper against the cold pavement. On that Christmas Eve, a deaf black woman stood alone outside a small-town gas station, suitcase at her feet, heart pounding with questions she couldn't voice. Everything she owned was inside that bag. Everyone she trusted had vanished. But before the night ended, a single act, a stranger's decision, would challenge the cruelty she'd endured and uncover something far greater than kindness. This isn't just her story. It's our reminder of what humanity looks like when the world goes quiet.
Before that bitter Christmas Eve, Maya lived a life built from quiet courage. She was 32, proud and tireless, a deaf black woman who'd learned to translate silence into strength. Every morning, she woke to the rhythmic hum of Birmingham's streets, fingers tracing the vibrations of passing buses as she commuted to her job at a community art center. Her world spoke in colors and movements instead of sound, and she painted emotion into every mural she touched. Maya's neighbors admired her grit, though few truly knew her story. The years of being overlooked, the subtle stings of bias that whispered she didn't quite belong. Yet she always answered with grace, focusing on light instead of shadows. That December, she dreamed of a quieter holiday, maybe visiting her mother up north, maybe just sitting by the tree, feeling the gentle pulse of Christmas through the floorboards. But small towns have their ways of reminding you who they think you are. A promise made days earlier, a rare moment of trust, was about to twist into betrayal. Someone she believed in would make a choice that left her stranded in more ways than one. And by the time the snow began to fall, Maya's silent world would echo louder than ever before. The morning had started with promise. Maya loading her worn suitcase into the back of a rust-colored sedan, her coworker, Heather, waving her along for what she said would be a peaceful holiday drive to the cabin. Maya smiled, grateful for the company and the kindness. She should have known better than to trust so easily, but kindness was the language she believed in most. The first 3 hours passed beneath stretches of gray sky and roadside snow. Maya tapped her fingers against her knee, feeling the soft vibration of the heater through her glove. But as the highway narrowed into back roads, something in Heather's face began to change. Her smile faded, her texts grew frequent, her hands gripped the wheel tighter. And when they stopped for gas in a town Maya didn't recognize, one of those small places where people still stared at difference like it was danger, Heather turned to her with a look Maya couldn't read, her lips barely moving. Then she stepped out. Maya followed, signing a quick, "Everything okay?" But Heather didn't sign back. She muttered something to the attendant instead. A few men lingering by the pumps turned to look, first at Heather, then at Maya. Eyes sharpened with something heavier than curiosity. One pulled out his phone, filming. Another laughed under his breath. Maya tried to ignore it, focusing on the drifting snowflakes and the hum of the air compressor, but a cold realization crawled up her spine. The car keys were gone. The sedan, her ride, her only way out, was slowly backing away, Heather's eyes fixed on the road ahead, refusing to meet hers. In an instant, the car's taillights vanished into the white. The laughter behind her grew louder. One man called out, voice dripping amusement. Maya couldn't hear the words, but she didn't need to. She saw it in the curl of his mouth, the tilt of his head, that same look she'd seen in 100 subtle glances before, the one that said, "You don't belong here." She grabbed her bag and turned toward the convenience store, hoping to call for help. But the attendant inside pointed toward the door, shaking his head. He mouthed something she caught only part of. Not here. His hands were steady, practiced like he'd done this before. Outside, the wind cut sharper. Now the sun already sinking. Maya stood between two worlds. Behind her, the town where silence carried danger. Ahead, the long road that led into freezing unknown. No phone signal, no car.
just miles of emptiness and the sting of betrayal heavy in her chest. Snow gathered at her feet. The air turned blue with dusk, and though she couldn't hear it, she felt the faint rumble of an engine slowing down somewhere behind her, a vibration that traveled through the ground, up her heels, into her breath. Someone else was stopping. Was it another stranger with questions in his eyes? Or the first sign that hope hadn't abandoned her completely?
The headlights cut through the snow like blades of white fire. A pickup slowed beside her, tires crunching against the frozen gravel. Maya froze, clutching her suitcase. A man stepped out, mid-30s maybe, heavy coat zipped to the neck, a small boy peeking from the passenger seat. She braced herself for more laughter, more danger disguised as curiosity. But his expression wasn't cruel. It was cautious, like he knew how easily kindness could be mistaken for threat in a town like this. He spoke, lips moving quickly beneath the swirling snow. She shook her head, signing that she couldn't hear. He hesitated, then pointed to her bag, then the road ahead. She understood the offer, a ride. Part of her screamed not to trust him. She had trusted once today already. But the cold was slicing through her coat, numbing her fingers. The dark behind her seemed to swell, alive with unseen eyes. The man lifted his phone, typed a few words, and held the screen toward her. "You safe? Need help?" The question split through her fear. She nodded, barely. He opened the passenger door for her. His son moved aside, small hands reaching out to guide her in. She climbed up, breathing ragged, unsure if she was stepping towards safety or another storm. Minutes passed before she realized they were heading away from the town, away from the gas station. Her phone vibrated in her pocket, an old text from Heather blinking through the shattered signal. "Sorry. Didn't want trouble. They were watching." Her pulse hammered. Trouble? For who? She wanted to scream. Then she saw it. Red and blue lights flashing in the distance, reflecting off the snow. The pickup slowed. The father's hands tightened on the wheel. In that cold blur of color and fear, Maya understood sometimes the worst danger wears the face of authority. But what happened next would reveal who truly had courage in that frozen silence.
The police lights painted everything in harsh blue and red, reflecting off the snow like warning flares. The single dad kept both hands visible on the wheel, chest rising slow and careful. Maya could feel the tremor of fear ripple through the truck. It wasn't just hers anymore. The officer approached, flashlight in one hand, the other hovering where no hand should ever rest so easily. Maya's breath clouded the window as the man tried to explain, words tumbling out fast, pointing to her, to the town they'd escaped. The officer's eyes flicked toward her, suspicion hardening his jaw. Then the boy in the passenger seat reached across, resting his small hand on Maya's. Maybe it was that gesture, pure, unguarded humanity, that softened something in the air. The flashlight lowered. The command never came. The officer turned away, muttering, "Be safe out there," before walking back into the storm. Hours later, Maya sat in a warm kitchen miles away, her hands wrapped around a mug of cocoa she couldn't taste but could feel, heat seeping into her bones. The single dad's family had taken her in for the night. No, everything wasn't fixed. No apology erased what had happened. But that single act of courage had cracked open a wall built on fear and silence. Maya would later share her story through her art, a painting of two hands, one small, one scarred, reaching across a field of snow. She titled it Soundless Mercy. Because that night wasn't just about being abandoned or found. It was about seeing how racism doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, ordinary and cruel, until someone chooses to break the silence. So the question remains, when the next Maya stands alone in the cold, who will be the one to stop, to listen, to act?